What would you think if I told you that the most unforgettable women in a man's life are not the kindest, nor the most beautiful, but the most psychologically complete? The ones who have danced with their shadow and didn't flinch. The ones who didn't need to raise their voice to be remembered, because their silence echoed in his bones. These are not the soft, compliant girls trained to please. These are the women who move through the unconscious like storms through a quiet field, unexpected, inevitable, and permanently altering everything they touch. She doesn't haunt his mind because she tried to impress him. She haunts him because she mirrored back the very things he wasn't ready to face in himself. That's the essence of the dark feminine. Not evil, not malicious, but sovereign, unapologetically whole. Jung called it the anima, the inner woman in every man's psyche, the gatekeeper of his soul, the one who brings him face to face with his deepest yearning and his darkest fear. This woman doesn't entertain the surface level. She speaks from the depths. She doesn't ask for attention. Her very presence commands it, because it's rooted in something ancient and primal, something that his logical mind cannot explain, but his soul cannot forget. And so, when she walks away, she doesn't leave emptiness. She leaves echoes. Echoes of glances that seemed to see through his armor, of words that felt like riddles and prophecies at once, of silences that forced him to hear himself for the first time. She may not have meant to stay, but she will never truly leave. Because unlike most, she didn't try to fix him. She mirrored him. One of the most haunting habits of the dark feminine is her sacred refusal to perform. She will not play the pleaser, the princess, the saint. She has nothing to prove. And that very absence of performance disturbs him more than he realizes. He is used to women bending, smiling, adjusting themselves to fit his idea of worthy. But she doesn't bend. She holds her shape. She knows that collapsing into a mold would be spiritual death. And so, she doesn't fake delight. She doesn't flatter mediocrity. Her standards are not spoken. They are felt, like a mountain's stillness. She's immovable. Men don't forget the woman who held her silence instead of chasing, who let the distance speak when words would have only diluted the truth. He might expect rage, tears, or negotiation, but she gives none. She gives only the mirror, and then the absence. And in that absence, he begins to see what his ego had long buried. Another haunting habit, her relationship with time. She does not rush, nor does she chase the future. Her timing is her own, and because she does not beg for validation, her detachment terrifies him. He cannot tether her with urgency or possessiveness. She moves with the rhythm of her own becoming. She knows that the fruit ripens in silence, not in panic. She teaches him something even his mother couldn't, that presence is not the same as availability. She is present, fully, but she is not there to be consumed. She is not the open door waiting for him to stumble back through at midnight. She is the locked gate of a temple. She opens when she chooses, not when he demands. When she disappears, it is not to punish, it is to preserve. And that withdrawal, that vanishing, becomes sacred in his memory. Because in that silence, he sees his own hunger, his own projections, his own fear of not being chosen. She doesn't need to make him feel like a man. She reflects whether or not he truly is one. Do you understand the power in that? Most women give their love like currency, hoping to be loved in return. The dark feminine does not bargain. She offers herself only to the worthy. And this worthiness is not about wealth or charm or potential. It is about depth, about how willing he is to meet her in the unconscious, to hold space for her truth, without trying to reshape it. He may not be ready. Most are not. And so, she leaves behind a storm he cannot name, a longing that makes every future lover feel shallow. Not because they aren't good women, but because they haven't met themselves in the underworld yet. Because they haven't looked into a man's soul and said without words, "I see your wounds. I won't soothe them for you. But I will not be afraid of them either." This is what haunts him. Not her beauty, not her touch, but the way she stood in front of his chaos and didn't run. There is a silence she carries that is louder than thunder. It is not cold or indifferent. It is knowing. A silence born not of fear or submission, but of mastery. She has looked inward so often that she no longer fills the air with noise to ease tension. She lets things die when they are meant to. And in doing so, she leaves a man alone with himself. And that, for most men, is the most terrifying confrontation of all. This is another of her habits. She does not rescue. While the world teaches women to be emotional nurses, to pick up the broken pieces of men and arrange them into hope, she chooses otherwise. Not because she is heartless, but because she understands a deeper truth. That to interrupt a man's descent is to deny him his transformation. So she watches, not out of cruelty, but out of reverence for the process. This woman knows that the man who must become cannot be coddled. He must burn. He must fall apart, shatter his illusions, grieve the fantasy he once projected onto her. Only then will he stand on ground of his own making. And only then, if he is still aligned, will she meet him again. Not as mother to child, but as soul to soul. To the man, it feels like abandonment. But in truth, it is liberation. She is the feminine embodiment of Seneca's words. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Her absence is not a wound. It is a doorway. He walks through it alone or not at all. And while he walks, she does not wait. Her life is not paused in his indecision. She builds, she breathes, she creates. She loves herself in the rawest way possible, without needing a witness. Her joy is not performance. It is ritual. And if he happens to glimpse her laughing under the moonlight, hair tangled by the wind, eyes lost in poetry, it will wreck him. Not because she is flaunting anything, but because she is free. A man does not forget the woman who did not make him her god, who saw through his charm, through his performance, through his manipulations and fears, and smiled anyway. Not the smile of surrender, the smile of someone who already knew the end and chose to taste the moment anyway. She lives without fear of ending. That's the secret he doesn't understand until she's gone. Most relationships he's known were built on the terror of loss, on the desperate plea to last forever. But she was not afraid to lose him, because she never belonged to him in the first place. She belongs to the truth, and when the relationship no longer mirrored truth, she stepped away not because she stopped loving him, but because she started loving herself more. In this way, the dark feminine is not toxic. She is the antidote to toxic love. She does not overgive. She does not over-explain. She doesn't text paragraphs hoping he'll understand her worth. She doesn't chase closure because she understands. Some things must remain unresolved so the soul can finish the lesson alone. And the man who once held her hand may one day lie beside another, staring into the dark, wondering why he still dreams of her. Why the sound of her laugh lingers like a scent he can't wash off. Why, even in the arms of someone gentler, someone simpler, he still feels a haunting. It's because she touched the part of him that's been buried since boyhood. The sacred, silent hunger to be fully seen. And once seen, never unseen. The dark feminine does not give him comfort. She gives him memory, a mirror, a myth. Not every man is meant to walk beside her, but every man who meets her carries the imprint. So if you are this woman, or becoming her, understand your power is not in how many chase you, or how many stay. It is in how many awaken because they crossed your path. Some will hate you for it. Some will revere you, but none will forget. To be haunted by a woman is not always to be broken by her. Sometimes, it is to be reborn through her absence. This is a truth men rarely confess. In quiet moments, when the noise of the world dims and the masks fall, they remember her, not as a flame that burned them, but as a mirror that revealed them. She didn't wound them. She simply exposed the fractures they'd hidden from themselves. Jung wrote that the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But the woman who embodies the dark feminine has already undergone her transformation. She arrives not as a girl searching for definition, but as a woman who has shed false selves like old skin. Her identity is not entangled in the role of lover or muse. She can love, but she will not be consumed. Another of her habits, perhaps the most haunting of all, is her fearless truth-telling. She will speak what most avoid. She will call out the illusion. She will name the pattern, not with cruelty, but with piercing accuracy. She does not manipulate with sweetness or diplomacy. She slices through pretense with a blade of clarity. And while he may flinch, his soul remembers. In the realm of the unconscious, she becomes the sacred initiator, the one who strips away his illusions and forces him into contact with his authentic self. And that's where the real fear begins. Not fear of her, but fear of what she awakens in him. Because once he sees himself clearly, he can no longer pretend, no longer hide behind charm or detachment or projection. Her gaze ruins the games. He cannot manipulate what refuses to react. She does not fight for power. She is power. Quiet, ancient, untamed. She does not make him chase, but she doesn't wait either. She simply is rooted in her sovereignty. And in that presence, he feels his own disconnection, his own lack of inner compass, because unlike her, he has not yet integrated his shadow. He still fears the depth she calls home. That's why she feels dangerous, because she will not flatter his ego. She speaks to the part of him that wants to rise, not to impress, but to evolve. But evolution demands pain. It demands death of identity, of illusion, of safety. Most men are not ready to shed that skin. And so, they blame her. They call her too much, too intense, too cold, too emotional. Anything to avoid the truth she's not too much. She's just whole. And when wholeness meets incompleteness, it triggers, it stings, but it also awakens. Men may go on to marry women who are easier, softer, quieter. But there will always be moments, quiet, unspoken moments, when the echo of her returns, in the stillness of a rainy night, in the scent of something familiar, in a phrase a stranger speaks that feels like her, in the silence between two songs. Because she is not merely remembered, she is felt in the nervous system, in the psyche, in the bones. And the woman who knows this does not weaponize it. She does not return to haunt. She lets go. That's what makes her unforgettable. She does not linger out of need. She disappears into mystery, not to punish, but because her soul has other mountains to climb. And as she goes, she leaves the man with a gift wrapped in ache, the invitation to meet himself. Fully, without her, without illusions. Many won't take that path, but some will, and for those who do, she becomes the myth that marked their turning point. She is not a fantasy. She is a mirror, a storm, a rite of passage. There is something profoundly unsettling about a woman who does not need to be loved to feel worthy. She may want it, yes, but need no. That distinction rewrites the entire psychological contract most men expect, because in his unconscious mind, love is power. If she does not need it, he cannot control her through absence. He cannot manipulate her with silence. He cannot win her back by withholding what she already gives to herself. This is another of her habits that echoes in a man's mind long after she's gone. Self-sufficiency that doesn't isolate, but dignifies. She's not the kind of woman who posts quotes about healing while bleeding for attention. Her solitude is not a defense. It's a temple. And the man who was once welcomed inside realizes only later what a privilege it was. Not because of the luxury, but because of the honesty. She didn't need him to make her feel whole. And because of that, she could see him clearly, without the fog of desperation. Her affection was not bribery. Her presence was not an audition. She was not trying to become anything for him. She simply was. And in that state of being, he encountered a woman the world rarely reveals, one who has nothing to prove and everything to embody. Jung believed the shadow was not just the dark parts we hide, but also the golden parts we suppress. This woman knows both. She has faced her rage, her grief, her jealousy, her erotic power. And instead of burying it, she integrated it. She does not act out. It lives in her eyes, in her movements, in her restraint. She doesn't need to announce her confidence. She doesn't need to seduce. She is seduction, because she's not performing it. And this is the paradox that haunts him. She was most desirable when she wasn't trying to be, most powerful when she was silent, most loving when she expected nothing. She is not interested in being chosen. She chooses. And that act alone reverses centuries of inherited scripts that told her to wait, to hope, to soften her edges until a man could hold them. No, she sharpened her edges until only a man who had bled into his own truth could hold her without injury. And when that man didn't come, she didn't collapse. She walked, and the echo of her heels on the floor of his life never quite fades. He may see her again, or maybe never, but if he does, he will notice something terrifying. She has grown. She has become even more sovereign, more radiant, not in spite of his absence, but because of it. She transmuted the ache into art, the silence into wisdom. She used the very pain he thought would break her as kindling for her next fire. And if you, listening now, are that woman, or becoming her, know this: your haunting is not a curse. It is a compass. You are not the wound. You are the lesson. You are not the drama. You are the mirror. And the man who ran from you did not run from you. He ran from what you showed him. Let him. Because a man who has not done the work will always call your wholeness too much. But the one who has faced his own shadow, he will not run. He will not confuse your boundaries with rejection. He will not confuse your silence with coldness. He will see in your restraint the very wisdom he's been searching for. And when that man comes, you won't need to haunt him, because he will already live in the same sacred depths you call home. And so, we arrive at the quietest and most potent of her habits, the one that lingers long after her scent has faded from his shirts, long after her name has stopped showing up on his screen. It is not what she gave that haunts him. It is what she never begged for. Her detachment was not icy. It was holy. Her withdrawal was not a punishment. It was protection. She didn't chase love. She embodied it. She didn't try to hold on to anyone who couldn't hold space for her soul. She simply opened the door, stepped through it, and didn't look back. Most men are haunted not by the woman herself, but by what they became in her presence, and what they failed to rise into. Her love didn't flatter his ego. It challenged it. She didn't clap for his potential. She waited to see who he chose to become. And when he didn't choose growth, she didn't scream. She disappeared. That vanishing was not cruelty. It was cosmic justice. The universe does not allow the sacred to remain where it is not honored. She knew that, so she left quietly. And the silence thundered. Some women bruise a man's pride. She bruised his soul, not because she hurt him, but because she awakened him. She showed him his unhealed boy, his need to control, to conquer, to consume, and she refused to feed it. She required the man, not the mask. And so, for the first time, he saw the separation between the two, and it unraveled him. But the unraveling is where rebirth begins. That is the secret she carries. She does not destroy for pleasure. She dismantles illusions so that something real can rise. This is the divine function of the dark feminine: to cleanse through confrontation, to sever through clarity, to transform through love that refuses to perform. Her love is not easy. It is earned. And because it is rare, it is unforgettable. She is not the woman a man dates to fill time. She is the woman a man remembers when time has taught him everything she already knew. And what she knew was this: love is not validation. It is vision. It sees what is real, what is possible, and what must die for truth to survive. She knew how to let things die. She honored endings. She didn't cling to dead weight. She walked away when it was time, not because she didn't care, but because she cared too much to stay where her light would be dimmed. She became the lesson life teaches slowly, over years and failed connections. And while he may tell stories to others, stories where she was the complicated one, the one who was too hard to love, he knows, deep down, the truth. She was never too hard to love. He was too unready to love at that depth. And that knowledge doesn't shout. It whispers in the quiet of a late night, in the hollowness of a shallow connection, in the stillness after a meaningless kiss. The memory returns, not always as a name or a face, but as a feeling. The feeling of being fully seen. That is what haunts him. Not her body, not her words. Her seeing, because she saw the king in him, before he even knew he had a crown. And when he refused the throne, she did not wait for him to return. She turned, cloaked in mystery, and vanished into the night like a prophecy unfulfilled. And that is the essence of her power. She doesn't stay to be proven right. She doesn't need to. Because the woman who knows her worth doesn't chase. She chooses.